5 years ago today, COVID had about 1 in 5 Americans under or heading into lockdown. New York was the epicenter of the outbreak, with more than 6,000 cases. Kansas had 44, none yet in Gove County. But by the end of the year, that area in northwestern Kansas would have the highest COVID death rate in the country. Now, 5 years later, Nikki Battiste went there in search of lessons learned for tonight's Eye on America.
This is Quinter, small town Quinter, Kansas.
Gove County Sheriff Sean Mesh wasn't worried about COVID reaching this remote part of northwest Kansas, even as it tore through big cities.
Like everybody would watch the news and we'd be like, ain't that worried about it. It's an East Coast problem.
There's just 2,700 people spread out over 1,000 square miles. Roughly 900 of them live in Quinter.
We figured, we might have one case, but we didn't expect to be in the world news for sure.
But by the end of 2020, Gove County was making headlines with a higher percentage of deaths than any other county across the U.S. In the span of just a few days, 17 people died in the local nursing home. About half of the patients there. The county's hospital was the epicenter.
Hospital officials declined to talk with us on camera. Why do you think that is?
I don't think anybody really wants to rehash what happened. I don't think anybody wants to talk about COVID.
But we did find people willing to talk about it at the local Dairy Queen. There, we met a group of church friends.
Yeah, we had a long-term care facility here at Quinter, and we lost 6 patients just within a short period of time.
That's a lot of people in a small town.
Yeah.
Did you know many of them?
Yes. They were like family.
Joni Kearns has owned this Dairy Queen for 26 years. She's tested positive for COVID 6 times, most recently in December.
5 years later, how do you feel about masks?
Ridiculous.
Kearns says she got the first 2 doses of the COVID vaccine, but none since.
Do you still worry about COVID?
A little bit, just because I don't want to give it to anybody else.
What do you think is the biggest lesson this community has learned?
We can survive. No matter what is dealt to us, we can survive.
That's the lesson going forward for Sheriff Mesh as well, who only got this job when COVID took the life of the county's longtime sheriff, Alan Weber.
When he passed away, when we brought him home from Denver, was one of the most emotional days of my life. Every overpass, once we left Denver, pretty much had law enforcement, our firefighters sitting on the overpass.
I can feel your emotion.
Yeah, there's not a day that I don't think about the man.
Right now we're hearing about measles cases. We hear about the bird flu. What does that make you feel?
Not again. I mean, we're ready, but one time in my lifetime's enough.
In both rural communities and big cities alike, that's a thought nearly every American can relate to. For Eye on America, Nikki Battiste, Quinter, Kansas.